Okay. Okay. I've been away for a minute, but I am excited to be back. We finally have the new Bladewing support. I've been studying the deck for like the last month. I've obviously known how the deck kind of played on the inception, like when it had first released. But as people got better with the builds, it evolved with the meta. I think this is the deck that kind of stands out to me the most. The goal of this deck is basically to turbo out and soul charge to 15 as soon as possible. The reason we're trying to get to 15 soul as quickly as possible is so we can use the new boss monster's ability, Wing Reijy. His ability says that if you are at 15 soul or more, this card gets 15k and a 2 crit, which means he goes from 1 to 3. I wouldn't say he's like MLB on steroids because he's not at 12 on the opponent's turn, but he swings a lot bigger than an MLB does. He also has the ability that when he is placed on Vanguard, you select a rearguard and get 3 copies of that in your deck into the soul. This isn't as applicable to the way I have built the deck. Typically, this is used to get cards that want to have other copies of themselves into the soul. I have chosen not to include those cards because basically what I've ended up doing was looking at every Dark Irregular card, and if the ability in some way does not soul charge, I didn't put it in. This does mean that the deck is going to be a little bit weaker in power, but I think the consistency of getting to that 3 crit for Bladewing is a little more important because that means we're going to be able to start swinging with him earlier than we typically would. Before I talk about the rest of the deck, I feel like I need to point out kind of the key card that you're going to want to be getting into your soul, which is Dimension Creeper. He is the ability that while he's in the soul, you can soul blast him and soul charge 2. This is a +1 in the soul. Even though he would be the perfect target for Bladewing, typically he is actually going to try to be our right target. This is so that we are guaranteed a Dimension Creeper in the soul. Because placing him on rearguard, yes, does mean that he is now going to be a target for Bladewing, but what will end up happening is then he just gets stuck on the board, and at that point he's just a 7k vanilla booster. As our backup right target, we are playing 4 copies of him on. This card synergizes a little bit with Dimension Creeper in the way of if you have Dimension Creeper out, you can use his ability to put him into the soul. So now you can soul blast him to get more soul. You've also popped a card, and Amon gets fat really quickly in this build. His main goal for the deck though is just to have a ride target that doesn't need to have a threshold. He's just going to be big no matter when we ride him. The other new triple rare for Dark Irregulars is Demon Chariot. If you are a fan of Different Fight, you've probably seen some memes made about this card. He is probably one of the coolest cards Dark Irregular has. So Demon Chariot is part of a trio of new units for Dark Irregulars. Each of them have the same ability that when they are placed, you add a copy of them to your deck. They also then have the ability that they get +2k for each copy of themselves in the soul. And if you have 3 or more, then they get a crit. See, I don't really like riding bikes. I have no idea how to pronounce the grade 2. So that means we're kind of left driving Chariot. Him being a heal trigger for the deck is amazing because he makes a copy of himself, the grade 2 and the grade 1. What this means is that when you place him, you add another heal trigger back to your deck. So placing him never feels bad. Even if you just want to like call him to the back row, add a heal trigger to your deck, and even use him as just like Amon fodder is still a good play. And then the last card I'm playing in the grade 3 slot is No Life King Death Anchor. He is kind of here as a 5th Bladewing in a way. He is going to be soul charging us every turn, so if we have to ride him before Bladewing, he's at least ramping us to that 15 quicker, which is nice. And he is in a way a finisher for the deck in the way that he gets +10k and a crit if you have 5 or more damage. Obviously, we would rather have Bladewing at his threshold because that's swinging for 2 crit and we're not milling ourselves more. Now, moving on to the grade 2s, like I said, if it doesn't soul charge, we're probably not playing it. So probably one of the best units we've gotten now is Emblem Master. He has the ability that when he hits Vanguard, you counterblast 1, soul charge 3. This is going to be able to ramp us to our 15 very quickly. What you'll start to notice from here on out is that a lot of our new really good units use Counterblast. So that means the deck is going to start getting a little Counterblast heavy. I haven't really had games where I was in desperate need of Counterblast, but there are some turns where I'm going to have to make a decision on which Counterblast unit I'm going to use. Speaking of which, our other new grade 2 is Free Traveler. He has the ability that when he is placed, you Counterblast 1, search your deck for any grade 2 unit or below, and put it to your soul. We are typically just going to be going to fetch Dimension Creeper to get more soul, because what you can read about this is Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 2. There will be times that you can use his ability to go get other bikes after Chariot goes off, but typically it's just to help us get more Dimension Creeper into the soul. And then there's good old reliable Flirtatious Succubus. It's really hard to beat the nice just on-play Soul Charge 1. There's no counterblasting, there's no on hits. It's just a free Soul Charge. And then I know I said we're only playing Soul Charge units, but I think just the splashing in of the 1 Gwyn the Ripper is really important. I was thinking of maybe bumping him up to 2 just to help us have the pressure of retiring our opponent's interceptors. But because Bladewing wants to go fetch the other 3 copies of a card, you want to be playing playsets of things. So playing 2s and 3s of stuff starts to make Bladewing even less efficient. Besides Dimension Creeper, our other new grade 1 is Yellow Bolt, possibly one of the better Soul Chargers for the deck in terms of this turbo idea. So he has the ability that you rest him and Soul Charge. What you'll do with him is you'll typically just place him in the back corner of both your rows if you can, and just start like Soul Charging as soon as possible. Yes, you might be like, oh, well, I lose a booster, but there's going to be so many turns where you're not going to need the boost. Your rear guard is just going to be used at taking out interceptors. You know, just having him in the back row, acting like a little hamster on the wheel, you know, like churning the engine. It's going to help us just get to our goal so much quicker. And then if you are done Soul Charging, you got a 7k booster. And then besides the PG, the last grade 1 is the 1 copy of Alluring. Just same thing as Flirtatious, just the on-play Soul Charge is kind of hard to beat. And I really like the new like chibi art that you got from the tournament rewards. So now for the starter, I was really debating between keeping Vermilion, because his Soul Charging is free, or the new Greedy Hand. They both accumulate a total of 2 Soul Charge, themselves and then the other card that they're getting. Vermilion is free, but the card is just a top deck. Greedy Hand counterblast 1, so it's using our resources, but it can get us any grade 2 or lower, which means he can go and get us a Dimension Creeper. I decided to go with this because then how I looked at it was Vermilion is a free Soul Charge 2. Greedy Hand is a Counterblast 1 Soul Charge 3. I decided that I'd rather go for this because, like I said, we are just trying to get to that 15 as soon as possible. Reijy does not need Counterblasting to do anything, so if I have to use 1 Counterblast here and there just to like get us to that 15, I'm going to do it. Now, the biggest problem for the deck that I think holds it back is that the deck has no way of plussing. I'll be talking a lot about that throughout the rest of the video, but just know that is why we are playing the 9 draws. We're going to be soul charging a lot in this deck, so we're going to want to try to draw into our pieces before we lose them. Like, we're going to want to draw our PGs, we're going to want to draw our Bladewings, our Chariots, just to be able to get more use out of them before they end up in the soul. I think there are lots of different ways you can build the deck, especially around the whole witching hour stuff with the bikes, especially the bike compared to the grade 2, which I'm not even going to try to say his name, because the grade 1 can chill in the back and work as a booster until he does get to his threshold. But since he doesn't soul charge himself, I just don't have room for him in the deck. Now, if you don't really feel like the deck needs as much soul charging as it does, you could take out the 1 Alluring I'm playing and substitute it with a Doreen the Thruster. She will be such a big booster every turn because of how much soul charging goes on in this deck. Like I said, the rear guards are typically just being sent at interceptors, and Bladewing himself, if he is at his threshold, is already ginormous, so he doesn't need a booster himself. So I just didn't feel like she was then needed. Like I said, I wish we had more flexibility for like maybe more copies of Gwyn the Ripper. I was also thinking of maybe splashing in like Storyteller to just have some way of drawing. But the Counterblast 2 is a little heavy, and like, you know, we need to be soul charging, so he just isn't going to have a spot yet. I might try to splash him in. I don't know. Give it a try. Tell me how it goes. Now, Dark Irregulars finally has our 12k attacker in Evil Eye Basilisk. I was really looking forward to trying him out, but since we're already playing 4 Chariots, That means we already have 4 cards I don't want to ride. I had a game where I had to ride a chariot and it sucked. It doesn't do anything once you place it. It's just a 10k vanilla. So also having more copies of stuff like that with Evil Eye Basilisk just feels like a bad time. I could see you switching him out for that 1 copy of No Life King, but No Life King can still be an 11k attacker on rearguard. If you're having to go for more budget, then try splashing Evil Eye Basilisk. I think he can do some stuff for the deck, but if you ever have to ride him, it's just kind of game over. So some lines of play that this deck is generally trying to do. Like I said, we have no way of plussing. So deciding on what to keep in our opening hand is very important. If you are a Great Nature player, you're going to know what I mean in that you need a strong start. A PG is a dead card for the first few turns. You're going to be wanting to have any other grade 1 in the back doing something like an otter or a platypus. So typically what I know of Great Nature players is that good ones are kind of shuffling in their PGs because they'd rather have any other grade 1. The problem of applying that to Dark Irregulars is that Great Nature pluses hella. They will draw into their PGs. We, on the other hand, do not plus at all, and we are probably going to soul charge them away. There are going to be so many games where you just never see your PGs. He really is just like that, like rabbit from Netherland, just ever elusive. So if you don't have a Dimension Creeper and you don't have a Yellow Bolt in your opening hand, I might say just send the PG back, just because you're going to need the soul charging. And if you don't get that early game, the PG isn't going to save you because you're already going to be so far behind. So Reijy does not need to be soul charging Dimension Creeper to be getting value. Even just soul charging like 2 copies of a Yellow Bolt because you have him chilling in the back row is still getting us to that goal of 15. It does not need to be this value gold mine of getting 3 cards in soul every time you ride him to be of use. Since we have kind of stepped away from No Life King, deck outs are a little less common, but it's still a possibility. Even though Chariot does make it a little bit easier since every time you call him, you're adding 3 more cards to the deck. And if you are having good luck and hitting your draw triggers, you're going to be even churning through that deck even faster. So stopping your soul charging at 15 is very important. We don't play a lot of units that auto soul charge. Most of them are an act ability, so there is no reason to surpass 15. Now going up against the meta with so many limit break decks running around, with Wing Reijy on our Vanguard circle, we can hold them at 3 damage almost the entire game. Him swinging for 3 damage means that he is now lethal once your opponent is at 3, which means they cannot enter limit break. So swinging your rearguards at interceptors the entire game isn't as bad as it used to feel, since Bladewing is going to be a death swing almost every turn. Especially if our opponent is low on hand size, you're going to want to even maybe send your rearguards at their grade 3s, just so that they're going to have a harder time pressuring you on their turn. So I'm going to try something new where I break down a gameplay that I did with the deck. Okay, I know that the video I'm about to show you is not like a top tier opponent, but I feel like the deck did a little bit of everything it's kind of supposed to, so I feel like it's overall just a good example of what you can do with the deck. So I'm starting by deciding on the mulligan. I'm basically going to send back all the triggers that I don't think I'll need because I already have all the ride targets I want and I need to go get that grade 2. So I'm going first and I have a really good opening hand. I'm going to ride the Dimension Creeper because like I said, I want to get him in the soul even though Yellow Bolt can't start soul charging early. Typically, I put Greedy Hand in the back row behind a rearguard, but since I know I'm going to be placing both of my Yellow Bolts, I'm going to be placing him behind the Vanguard. That's the reason I typically don't put him there is because like Vanguards are usually pretty big for this deck. I'm going to put both of the Yellow Bolts in the back and just start soul charging, just start this engine as soon as possible. So typically I'll be riding Emblem Master because I really want him to hit and get that soul charge going. And then I'm going to call Alluring out just to have another card that can deal some damage, get that soul charge going. I then can decide here on if I want to soul charge with Yellow Bolt or if I'm going to want to use him as an attacker, because Yellow Bolt and then Emblem Master and then Flirtatious will equal 16, which means it'll hit. Just looking at this board, I should hold Yellow Bolts in the back, soul charge, swing Emblem Master, soul charge more, and then have a guaranteed second hit with Flirtatious. I don't think I do though. I think I go for 3 damage, but just know typically you should be focusing on soul charging rather than dealing damage. Yeah, I did the bad play. It's fine. I think it works out for me because like let's say he hits a defensive here, then my Emblem Master doesn't hit and then I miss out on that free 3 soul charge. Not free, it's counterblast, but you know what I mean. I hit the trigger here, which means my Flirtatious is going to be hitting no matter what he gets here. I'm going to use the Emblem Master and just start cranking all that stuff in the soul, you know. Okay, and we now take him to 3. Like I said, in a typical game, they're not going to be on their PG, so their unit is not going to be that small. We are going to want to try to be pushing them to 3 damage, though, so that Bladewing can be a constant threat. But that doesn't need to be the turn you ride Bladewing. Okay, so he rides the Berserk. He's going to pop the Flirtatious. Has the Bellicosity, so he's going to be able to countercharge, and he's going to be able to take me to 3. I do hit the defensive trigger, and I draw into a Demon Chariot. So is he now going to swing at my Vanguard, or is he going to try to take out my Yellow Bolt? I don't remember. Okay, he's going for face, and it doesn't hit. Okay, so right now, I can decide on riding either Amon, Bladewing, or No Life King. Riding Bladewing would, I think, soul charge me too, because I can put in 2 Yellow Bolts, taking me to 9. I can then crank both Yellow Bolts, take me from 7 to 9. I can then use Greedy Hand, taking me from 9 to 11, and then I can Soul Blast 2 of my Dimension Creepers, which will then take me to 13, I believe. I don't know exactly what's all in my soul. I also now have the Emblem Master, so it will be able to get me to 15 this turn, no matter what, I believe. So this is a misplay on my part. I started Soul Blasting the Dimension Creepers now. What you want to do is you want to not Soul Charge them until the turn that you need them, because you don't want to be Soul Charging triggers. You want to be able to keep that stuff in the deck as long as possible. Because see, like, look, right now I'm at 13 soul. If I had ridden Bladewing, I would have been able to be at 15 with both of the Yellow Bolts and all the Dimension Creeper in my soul. And I think I figured that out. I am going to call the Demon Chariot out and start putting that in. You should also call out Demon Chariot before you soul charge, so that way you have a chance of getting those chariots and bikes into your soul. That should not be the goal. Those are the chariot being able to swing for 2 crit is kind of just a cherry on top. Yeah, and see, this is what's kind of nice about Amon, is that he can just be huge. Like, he's just already at 25. He's now getting a PG, so I know that my Bladewing is not going to pressure him this much next turn. He does have a fat hand, though, and I've only seen 1 PG, so it is possible that he now has 2 or 3 in his hand. I've already hit my soul charge goal of the game, so I don't really care to use any more counterblast. I can just ride Bladewing. He's going to go to 15 now, no matter what. I think I'm going to just soul charge the chariot. Yeah, just to, like, you know, get chariot as a 2 crit swing. As if you see, I have a second one in my hand. I don't think I need to call it, though, because I guess I do. Why did I call it? Did I not notice that he had interceptors? I don't think I was paying attention. Or did I just want to put heals back in? Yeah, I'm noticing the error of my ways that should not have done that. I will use his ability to probably go get a grade 1 bike. Yep. Just get those out of the deck, so hopefully I have a better chance of hitting a trigger. Send him in. Take that guy out. Send the chariot in. We already know he has a PG, so this Bladewing swing isn't going to be doing much. So I have 1 interceptor, which he can retire because, you know, he plays Kagero. I know his Mega Blast isn't going to be happening this turn because he only has 3 Counterblast. But I also know that I am only at 5 damage. Sorry. I'm only at 4 damage, so a defensive trigger will protect me this turn. I knew as soon as he laid that blockade that I was kind of screwed, though. And he hits the heal. Oh, there goes the PG. I think I got the 1 heal left in deck. Is that it? Yes, it is. That's the nice thing about having a low deck size. So the 6 damage heal saves me. It's kind of luck, kind of not, because like, you know, you mill through the deck so much, calling out the chariots just kind of make it so you're going to run into him eventually. I'm then going to move the chariot up and just kind of push for game, because as long as something in my front row hits, I win. Because I know he's already used 2 PGs. Oh, he had both in his hand still, so... bopping. Okay, so... unless he gets a 6th and a 7th damage heal, that's a game for me. Yep, so that's game. Like I said, this was not the most optimal game. Obviously, you saw I made some misplays. The opponent wasn't playing like a top tier deck, and I got a lucky 6 damage heal. But like I said, the main reason I chose to use that video as the example was because I felt like the deck did a little bit of everything that you would see in a typical game. I think the breakdown is more of my style and how I would like to like show you guys what I'm doing. I'd rather break down the video than you just watch me play. Now, my final thoughts for the deck. Reijy opens up so much possibility in how we build Dark Irregulars. I'm currently trying it with this like turbo build of like getting to 15 as soon as possible. But there may be way more efficient ways of playing Dark Irregulars. Like I said, there's the whole Witching Hour line. There seems to be this kind of draw engine stuff going on, which I might play around with. And we have access to some pretty cool units, you know, like When the Ripper, Storyteller, like stuff that does just some very splashable things. We just haven't had a real good place to put it in yet. Every game I've ridden Reijy, he has swung those like huge 3 crits of his around. And damn, does it feel good. It feels still like fair and focused compared to something like MLB, because we have to really fight to get to that 15 soul and get to that 3 crit. While MLB just kind of feels like he just naturally will get it no matter what. And they also don't have to worry about decking out, about soul charging all of their PGs. Yeah, it just feels like a kind of more fair MLB, while being like, you know, like cool little like emo boys, you know. Bladewings do become an archetype, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how that shapes up, and maybe how Reijy interacts with our future support, like our Break Ride Dontardian. Overall, I'm just like really happy to be back playing Vanguard hella, making content all the time. As you can see, I'm trying out some new stuff. I have an actual light set up. It's kind of ghetto, but it works. I'm going back to the old way I used to do audio, which is with a handheld mic. I'm just trying to really like work on like what I'm doing here. A lot of the clans that came out in this last set are clans I really like playing, so expect to see a lot more videos coming out from me. And like there's so many like little like units that I don't think are going to be played in the like top tier meta, but I think are still very playable, and I already have some deck recipes written out of that, so like keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I'm like super excited to be like sharing this stuff with you guys again. Yeah, I don't know how to end these. That's all I got.